I'm George Kwon, Director of Product. I have the privilege of being here today representing a team of product managers, designers, engineers behind the Lifecycle management product. And this is really an exciting opportunity to tell you a little bit about this product and where it's going, and really to start a conversation, right? That's what this is all about, to share how we're thinking about your pain points, how we're thinking about where the product needs to go, so that you can tell us and give us that feedback, and we can create this great product and this movement together. A quick slide here on Safe Harbor. I'm going to be talking about roadmap and future things. Legalese, not guarantees to deliver things in the future, blah, blah, blah. What I want to cover today are a few things. So there's a mix of people in the room here, probably some existing customers. Raise your hand if you're an existing customer of Okta. Wow, most of the room, that's great. Maybe you're a prospect. You're considering buying Okta, a few hands. So I want to cover briefly what is lifecycle management. We had a great 101 session this morning. I'll talk a little bit about why we've built this product, the use cases. I'll touch on new capabilities, things you can go home and take home today and use in your environments to improve how you manage users in their lifecycle. I'll talk about near-term roadmap, and then finally a chunk of time at the end to cover an exciting investment we're making in workflow. Todd touched on this morning, and I'd like to go a little bit deeper. We'll have someone come up, Andrew from the team, to give a quick demo there. And then we'll close out with some questions. So I want to quickly survey the room here. How many folks are interested in lifecycle management because you purchased a new cloud app that needs provisioning? Box, Office 365. Okay. How many folks are trying to improve their day one onboarding experience? Wow, that's a big pain point for folks. Yeah. Compliance or governance need, trying to pass audits and automate that process. Trying to retire maybe a legacy system. Is that on people's radar? Okay, good. These are all things that we have top of mind, and we're all in this room together because we envision this future around a more efficient, modern, agile IT. These great day one experiences, frictionless access, but secure, auditable, compliant, more SaaS, less maintenance. These are all things we aspire to, right? But this is hard, as you all know. Life cycles are complicated. You've got different user types in your organization. They're moving, they're joining, they're leaving. You're acquiring companies. This business process is a lot to handle. And all of us in this room are familiar with kind of the challenges with identity debt, right? You have legacy systems, existing business process. Your budgets aren't getting any bigger. You've got custom code and integrations lying around that you're scared to touch, right? If it's not broken, don't try and fix it. These are all things that make achieving this modern future challenging. And so lifecycle management is really set out to help you with this problem, to help you modernize, to help you deal with some of these challenges. And we do that by providing a few things. The first is helping you build a single source of truth for your users, for your identities, your groups, your roles. Incredibly important if you're going to begin this journey down lifecycle management. The second is managing those users, groups, roles at scale. Your organization might be hundreds of people, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Managing that in a manual way doesn't scale. It's going to be error prone. So we're out to help you automate how you manage your directory. And finally, all of those resources, applications, we talked this morning about advanced server access, so servers, other resources. How do you connect that to this life cycle so that you're doing less management in individual systems and things are flowing downstream? And finally, we do this for any user. We're really out there to help you with your employees, your external users, your customer identities. As I talk about the roadmap, I wanted to highlight two themes and features, types of features that you're going to see. The first is what you kind of know and love about Okta, I hope, which is a lot of our out-of-the-box features, our policies, our rules, our integrations. pre-built, maintained, admin configurable out of the box. But Todd this morning talked about an important movement for us as a product team, which is about creating an open platform. And the feedback we hear time and time again from customers is, allow me to do more, make it possible. And for that reason, a big focus of our roadmap this past year has been giving you the power to customize through hooks, APIs, and standards. So as I go through this roadmap, I hope you'll see these two types of investments that we've been making both this past year and going forward. So I'll dive into these three topics and talk a little bit again about what we do, what's new, and what's coming. Single source of truth. You know, our vision here is really to connect to any HR system, any source of truth of your identity data. Provide a cloud directory that can be standalone, can serve as a meta directory to consolidate different identities, and help you manage synchronization so you don't have to think about it. You know, many of you are familiar with UD. For those that you don't know, flexible users, group schema in the cloud, easy to manage, easy to customize. We can connect to any of your existing sources of truth. So AD, as you all know, multiple ADs, LDAP, your HRIS, maybe writing back to AD. We provide admin interfaces to manage your users and self-service interfaces for your end users as well. We have a series of out-of-the-box integrations to directories and systems of record that you can import from and master from that are pre-integrated, maintained by Okta. And if you have a system that's not in the OIN, we provide, again, those options to integrate. We have a users API, a programmable interface for user management into UD. We have an OPP agent, which has a SCIM interface that can sit next to your on-premise HRIS or directory. These are all options to really connect anything to Okta, any systems of record. And when you connect those systems, it's not just about the integration and calling those APIs. It's about orchestrating identity sync and making that easy for you guys. So it's mappings and transformations, matching rules, all of these out-of-the-box features that attempt to make identity synchronization easy. In 2018, this past year, since the last Oktane, the team has been really hard at work. We invested in more systems of record, more flexibility, more customization. And I want to go through some of these features right now. Csv Directory is now GA, can sit next to any file system, pick up CSVs, and use that to generate incremental changes to your user directory with all those same great features around mappings, et cetera. This is GA. Use this right now if you're a lifecycle management customer. Import scheduling, just a small detail, but a huge pain point for our customers. Schedule any time of day, hour, specific time. A lot of our customers say, I want to run imports after the workday is over overnight so that I have a chance to catch issues in the morning. This is EA, something that you can use with Workday and our HRIS integrations, coming soon for AD and LDAP. Another small detail but important pain point, ability to clear unconfirmed users. You run an import with incorrect mappings, you want to start over. This is GA, you'll see it right there next to your import button. And finally, advanced import matching rules. As our customer base has grown and you're a multinational organization, oftentimes you need to rely on other unique identifiers, and you want to match on more than username or email. So the ability to match on an employee ID or any other identifier is now possible in imports, and this is also GA. Now, we can't build all these features, and we can't build every feature, and we hear a lot of customers who want to do more in this import process. And for that reason, we've released in EA support for what we're calling import inline hooks. So in any import process, you can insert your own custom code. So if you're a development team, you write some code, put this in a Lambda, and you can complete use cases like auto-generating identifiers according to whatever logic you want. Add numbers, middle names, et cetera. Resolve conflicts as they happen through your own custom logic. Maybe even augment a profile or update a profile. So again, in this theme of opening up our platform, giving you the out-of-the-box features, but letting you customize. This is EA. Looking forward, as more and more customers rely on us for their imports and Okta as a system of record, we're investing in speed of our imports and scale, supporting millions of records, better monitoring and control of what's happening in your import jobs, and having visibility into failures. Continued investment in hooks to open up the platform and provide those abilities to customize. Managing the directory at scale, another huge challenge that organizations face. And we provide a few new capabilities here that I'd like to talk about around self-service, automation, and again, that depth of customization. Many of you may have already be familiar with self-service registration, a great out-of-the-box option for your external users, most likely, to register for access. This is EA. Coming soon in the coming months, again, an inline hook to customize that registration process. So with your custom code, you could do things like validate an email address. Is this a partner identity? Is it coming from a domain that I trust? I may want to add an approval process to the registration flow. These will all be made possible by this registration inline hook, and this is coming soon. Group rules. This is a capability that we see immense adoption almost across our entire customer base. Group rules now supports adding multiple groups to a single rule to help you cut down that management aspect. We've also created a new UI. As people use and have adopted this feature, we now support search. Basic thing, a lot of people were Control-Fing to find their rules. We have search, we have a collapsible UI to hide details, and group rules now supports up to 2,000 rules. So this is a big ask across our customer base. We've raised that limit, and we're seeing great adoption around this. Please use this wisely. And this is GA. So we've always been good at mirroring that identity lifecycle from your HRIS, right? A terminated user gets deactivated in Okta. But as we've seen more user types and our customers put more user types into Okta, we've seen a need to be able to create your own automations and workflow around those life cycles. And that's why we built automations, which is EA as of today. And this is a simple interface to build a if this, then that rule. A couple use cases that we support. Contractor compliance. You have contractors where you want to automatically suspend their account if they're inactive. It provides you a backstop in terms of access. That is possible today with automations. Notifying users ahead of password expiration, cleaning up your directory, maybe deactivating users based on another attribute that you bring in from your HR system. These are simple rules you can configure in an admin UI and drive more automation around your identity lifecycles. Looking forward, we already have some conditions and actions in EA. Coming soon, additional conditions and actions to, again, broaden the usage of this capability, taking action like moving people into groups, updating their attributes, in addition to managing their lifecycle. And this is coming soon in Q2 and Q3. Self-service for applications. This is now GA and has been for some time. The ability to enable self-service for any application. You can require or not require approval. This is a new capability. We get a lot of folks who say, I give birthright access to a lot of applications, but I want, for some applications, people to request them. I don't need an approval, but they only get it if they need it, and that helps save license cost. So approval workflow on top of requests, and this is all GA. And finally, again, on the theme of customization and making things possible, there are a lot of events being generated around Okta and UD. Users being created, people being granted applications, moving groups. We have a lot of customers who did interesting things with our system log events. They would pull those events to drive downstream workflow. With event hooks, you can now register for a notification. Again, customize a host of integrations and downstream workflows. For some folks, that's creating a ticket when a new user is added to their directory for some IT tasks. It might be notification or alerting when your AD agent is down. A lot of different use cases. This has been in beta, and we've gotten really good feedback from customers and seen a lot of interesting use cases. This will be EA in a couple weeks after Oktane, which is great. These are just some of the events that you'll be able to subscribe to, many of the events that you're familiar with in System Log, and this list will increase over time. Finally, I want to touch on connecting to all those resources, connecting them to that identity lifecycle, driving more automation. Okta supports provisioning to over 190 applications, and that's user provisioning, create, update, delete, and for a subset of those applications, supporting group sync as well. Over the last few months since last Oktane, we've added 61 new provisioning integrations through our SCIM program. So these are ISVs, thanks to your pushing and cajoling, saying you need to support SCIM if you're going to be my customer. ISVs coming to Okta, implementing SCIM and getting that integration in the catalog, and over just the last year, 61 new provisioning integrations, which is really amazing. We've added depth to some of our top integrations, improving group push to support linking and pushing into existing groups. We've added schema discovery to a number of applications that you see listed here. So constantly improving those top integrations, making sure they support the depth that you need. We have a SCIM app wizard. So many of you may have internal applications that you want to provision to. And so if you can support the SCIM standard, create that SCIM interface, you can add that application directly into your org and start provisioning to that application. And this is GA. Again, with event hooks, really the possibilities are endless in terms of how you might drive downstream workflow into other resources, applications, directories, or even human workflows. So I encourage you to play around with this and come up with more ways to connect more things to that identity lifecycle. And finally, later this year, we're hard at work at designing a new catalog. A nice enhancement. We get a lot of complaints around what do you support, what applications are in the OIN, what do they do they have these capabilities, We'll be launching a new catalog that will be publicly facing, which will really help your internal teams know and drive adoption of applications. And this will be coming later this year. So again, build that single source of truth with UD and these deep integrations with systems of record. Manage your directory at scale with automations, and connecting all of those resources to your identity lifecycle. Just a few of the strategies we're putting into your hands to help get control of those user lifecycles. Features that you can use today in GA, EA, go home, try these out, take a picture, ask your CSM, and take advantage of these new capabilities. Coming soon to EA, event hooks, and some new automations coming later in Q2. Again, more great functionality to take advantage of. Some beta programs. This morning, the team spoke about the identity engine. And if you think about that capability as a flexible, programmable platform to manage the creation, onboarding of users, this can be a really powerful tool to create those external user-facing experiences for B2B and B2C. Capabilities that you should take a look at and take advantage of, and there are other sessions that go deeper in these areas. So really proud of the team in what we've built and what we've been able to deliver in the last year, but as a product team, we're not satisfied. So these are some images of our ideas board. Hopefully you guys are all familiar with this. We look at this every week as product managers, as engineers, because this is how we stay in touch with your problems. This is how we get a sense of how we can do better. And frankly, this ideas list is long. We know you guys are struggling with custom business process. To give some examples, I want to provision users when they're staged, not when they're active. Or I don't want to disable users in AD. I want to move them into a new OU. Or I want to deactivate, but at a certain time of day. Why can't you support this application? Or when am I going to get integration to that application? In general, in taking a look at this feedback, we've taken a step back as a team. And what we're realizing is that there are so many business processes ingrained in lifecycle management. This is customer-specific process around your users and groups and applications. And we need to figure out a way to deliver automation around that business process in a faster way. But we need to do that in the right way. Legacy identity management products have been very good at being able to codify and automate any business process. You can take a workflow engine and program into that any process. But it's hard to maintain, hard to use. It requires specialized skills. It breaks. Your business process changes, and now you're hiring professional services. So when we built lifecycle management, we took a fewer set of use cases, but focused on out of the box, easy to use, maintain. But again, we can't support all those detailed business processes. With hooks and custom code, we've done a little bit better. But again, we're not satisfied as a product team. How do we automate any business process around a lifecycle of your users and deliver SaaS, easy to maintain integrations and workflow? Can we achieve this in a modern way? And can we move this industry forward? We think we have an answer. We think that answer is low-code workflow. Okta made an investment about a month ago in a low-code integration platform, and we're really excited about this technology. We can automate any business process around your user lifecycle, around provisioning, around onboard, offboard, but do that with supported connectors in a low-code way that doesn't require engineers. That can be your custom business process, but leverage best practice and community reuse. So we're really excited about this as a major investment in the future of lifecycle management, really taking the product to a next level and allowing you to solve more complex joiner, mover, lever, management of your SaaS, compliance workflows, et cetera. We're really excited to see what you can do with this. I want to get Andrew up here to do a quick demo of this technology. You saw a brief glimpse of it this morning, but really a deep dive demo is the only way to do it justice. So I'll hand it over to Andrew.
Okay, thanks, George. As he indicated, actually our acquisition is about 3 weeks old. There's a bunch of my fellow workflow teammates here, and this is our 12th day as Okta employees, and we're pretty excited. We've been diving right into this problem. Thank you. So there was a demo this morning as part of the keynote, and as George mentioned, everywhere he talked about there being hooks and being able to add custom code, we want you also to be able to plug in custom solutions, infinite integrations without having to write code. And okay, so this is our flowchart view. So this is just the simple flowchart that shows what one of these custom automations would do. And of course, they can start with any of those hooks that are supported in Okta. So in this case, this is for an Okta organization I have that assigns G Suite to users. And instead of using the built-in Okta provisioning, I want to use a custom provisioning. So anytime a user is assigned to G Suite, it's going to run this custom code, although I've written it with no code, and after I demo it, I'll go back and show you how I built it. But it's going to basically find out information about that Okta user, and then based on the attributes of that user, like whether it's a full-time employee or a contractor, it's going to take 2 different paths. For a full-time employee, maybe it just immediately creates the user in G Suite, looks up their department, and then adds them to the proper group in G Suite, and then composes and sends a Slack message to the people who need to know that a new user was added. And again, this is all completely customizable. And then the other path for a contractor, maybe it's going to store that data in a table and then compose an email that starts an approval process that could also be customized. So let's take a look. This workflow is actually turned on. So let's switch to my Okta org. And I'm going to go ahead and assign G Suite to a bunch of users. And I have that webhook turned on automatically by creating that workflow. And we're hard at work at making sure we can put our engine and our UI right within the Okta experience. So you'll be able to, you won't have to use a code window to set up these webhooks. You just drop in a card and turn it on and it'll just automatically work. So when I go ahead and I make these assignments and I confirm, okay. Now let's switch to Slack. And here's my Slack group. And you can see, it actually took slower than it took earlier, but you can see I already got 2 messages because 2 of those users that I provisioned were full-time employees. And you can see these are custom. It actually gives the name and the department and their title of those people. So let's take a look at the flow that actually built that. And you can see this is the design view. And in this view, you see everything that's happening in the flow. You see all of the inputs to each step, and each step has outputs, and it runs from left to right. So the first thing that runs is the webhook. And when a user is assigned to G Suite, we get the date and time, and we get the message, and we get all the information about the admin who assigned it and the user who was assigned. And I can take and pick up any one of these outputs and drag and drop into a future step. And that's how I'm able to easily do things like look up that specific user and then get more information about them, like their first name, their last name, their email, etc. As I scroll over to the right, you can see that I do the create user step there. I've got the conditional logic. I add the user to the right. I look up the user and add them to the right group based on their department, which was just dragged over from the left. And then I compose and send that Slack message. And we actually keep track of, you opt into this, and then you can actually click on flow history, and then you can see here are the 3 records. And if there were 500 records, there would have been 500 things that ran. And you can see, I can actually click on these and see the actual data that ran through each step. So I can see the message that was composed and the names. And in this case, let's click on the second one. That was also a full-time employee. And the third one was one of my contractors. And I could see it didn't run the true step. It ran the second branch, which was to create that row, compose, and send the email. And next to each step, you see the green check mark tells you that it ran successfully, and it tells you that, I can't read that from here, but it took less than half of a second, it looks like, to run that step. And if there were any errors, I could debug it from here. So it's this really easy environment. I could replay a single card, or I can test it with different values. So as you're building it, you can easily just try different things out. So we're pretty excited to deliver this into Okta, and that's a little teaser of what's to come. And
Awesome.
We're focusing on lifecycle management scenarios to begin. Thank you. Okay.
How cool is that? Super exciting. Again, team has been here 2 weeks, so we ask for your patience. But we're hard at work integrating these products into lifecycle management. A few things that get me really excited about this. Your custom business logic, but in low code. Easy to maintain, test, debug. The feedback we get about provisioning in our product today. How can I see what happened? When there's an error, I need to be alerted. How can I see the data flowing through the system? All of those principles are present in this product and are incredibly powerful. A host of connectors, not only to automate account creation into your SaaS, but for alerting and ticketing. This morning you saw a little bit of a security incident response use case. These pre-built connectors, but also the ability for you to build your own connectors, for the ability for SIs and our great partners to build out connectors. getting past this problem of when will Okta engineering and the product team put my connector on the roadmap. So another really exciting capability here. So like I mentioned, this year, hard at work at integrating these products, and you'll see this as part of our lifecycle management product, helping you automate more joiner, mover, lever, as well as provisioning. And as we go forward with this integration, you'll certainly see more applications of this low-code workflow across the Okta product, integrating with the Okta Identity Cloud for use cases like security and customer identity. So stay tuned. It's going to be an extremely exciting year for the product. With that, I'd like to ask you all to quickly go to georgekwon.com and fill out a survey. As I'm about to launch into questions, the one thing I hate about these sessions is that we never have enough time to answer everyone's questions. So if you want to give feedback on what you saw, please go here. There's a 30-second form to fill out. Leave us your email address so the team can connect with you. And with that, I'll take some questions. Up here, yep.
The first time comer for Okta. I'm very excited to joining this group of people and the team who are seems to be very caring about the customers. So my question for you is that we joined the Okta planning that we are going to use a single sign-on tool. But my question here was, as a first timer, is that what is your future kind of vision on lifecycle management part of it? Are you planning to be full-blown IGA service providers, or you are just happen to be access management vendor who wants to provide subset of the IGA capability in long term?
Yeah, I can answer that. So as you all know, like our DNA as a company was creating this new category called IDaaS, which coming out of the days of CA SiteMinder, Identity Minder, and Oracle Identity Manager was a out-of-the-box set of capabilities across the identity problem statement delivered as SaaS. And that was our DNA. As we've matured and our products matured, our customers are asking us to do more, right? Don't just integrate with AD and be a bridge to the cloud. Actually be my system of record. Integrate with HR. Do more provisioning. Give us some basic access requests. So in general, we're very customer focused, and we let our customers take us to where they need to be, as opposed to drawing lines or entering specific categories. There are folks, I'm sure partners in the room, who do IGA very well, and we partner very closely with them. At the moment, that's not our core business. But our customers take us in amazing places. We've been at this for 5-6 years. And we hope to evolve our product in the direction that our customers need. Any other questions around the room? I see one in the back corner, barely because I'm being blinded by this light. But
do you have any plans to be improving the workflow for disable? So, for example, the use case would be on an HR termination, we would want to disable all accounts but not deprovision them. The suspend workflow that you currently have doesn't quite meet our use case, or what would be a standard use case in most organizations we're consulting with.
Yeah, that's a very common one. In Salesforce, you want to freeze accounts, right? You don't want to deactivate them because you lose your leads, or in Box or collaboration, you want to suspend, not transfer those files. That's certainly our vision, and the use case we have in mind as we're talking about low-code workflow. Being able to choose what actions you take when you're offboarding an application to suspend, transfer files, and then deactivate to reclaim the license. Those types of multi-step workflows and the choice to pick the action is absolutely where we're headed. Any other questions? Quiet room. I expected more. Got one right here.
All right, so this is already in the product, I apologize. One of our biggest issues with the deprovisioning is reassigning assets to other employees. So like a manager leaves, that employee had a bunch of stuff in a random application. A lot of apps have the ability to reassign privileges, but other times we basically just have to like give someone's password to their boss so they can go in and get out the information. Is there any potential way to like allow people assume deprovisioned users or something for some period of time?
That's a good one. Again, there's been asked to transfer leads and files and things like that, but I think you're actually speaking about impersonating access, et cetera. And that's not something that we're focused on at the moment. There are some ways to get around impersonation, but not ones that I would recommend. But over here.
Can you speak a little bit about customer lifecycle management and what you guys are thinking in terms of customer identity management?
Yeah, customer identity, right? Yeah. So there are a few pieces there. One is with customer identity, typically you're building your own customer-facing experience. And in general, that typically involves a registration experience. So this morning you saw a great demo around registration with progressive profiling, all powered by the identity engine. That's really our focus and investment in that area, is giving you the tools in that platform to build a customer-facing registration experience, a login experience, et cetera. So while I didn't cover that in detail, that is a key focus, and there are other sessions around customer identity specifically that will cover kind of those experiences throughout a customer lifecycle. Was there something specific around customer lifecycle?
Offboarding of customers, because I think that is one of the things we're trying to get our hands around, provisioning, deprovisioning, onboarding, just like you talked about the HR, Workday integrations and the whole life cycle of an employee in some sense, like the similar holds good for the customer as well.
Gotcha. And you're talking about not your employees or your workforce, but your customer identities.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Yeah. So I think it depends on the application, and a lot of folks for customer identities are not are self-service. You're getting access to an application or service versus a tightly controlled, managed identity in a directory. So when we typically talk about customer identity, it's building this self-service experience. Around Lifecycle, we have heard use cases like cleaning up inactive accounts that haven't logged in for a year to reclaim the identifier. That's something that actually automations is capable of handling. So you could set a rule or an automation to suspend and then delete inactive accounts. And people use that to keep the directory clean and recycle identifiers. But just one example of how people manage a customer identity. Typically, it won't be linked to an HR system. So that's why people kind of use these other. Sorry?
CRM system?
Oh, I
Just
gotcha.
the CRM system, and that's what we're trying to figure out,
Gotcha.
how that works.
Yeah, and
How do you keep it like active and synced? And
I gotcha. Yeah, again, I'll use the example of building a workflow around that, right? So you might have an event around a customer in your CRM database, churning as a customer, no longer being a customer, and having that drive and automation back into Okta to suspend and disable that account. That sort of if this then that workflow, I think is maybe what you have in mind, would be very possible with what we're working on in the future.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, right across the way. Oh, sure.
Hi. We master our employees through Workday into Okta. It works great. Terminations doesn't work great. There's a gap between Workday and Okta that has persisted where only the term date comes over to Okta. It's insufficient for scheduling of terminations. We have a lot of IP we need to protect, and we need it protected when we want it protected. So RTS, yeah, it happens immediately, sometimes too immediately. Non-RTS happens day after, too late. Anything you're doing about that?
If I'm getting your question correctly, in non-RTS scenarios, sometimes the termination happens according to a very specific time zone and time stamp. There are some enhancements to address that, to terminate at a specific time of day. But more what I'm hearing is that you might have additional or different business logic around the state of the employee that you want to bring in and drive a different workflow around. That's different from what our integration does today. Is that right?
We just want Workday to master the termination. And right now it doesn't. It says the day, and in a non-RTS situation, you do it tomorrow. That's too late.
Gotcha, from a timing perspective. Let's take that offline and let's chat up front here so I can understand it in detail. I might pull in some other folks as well.
Yeah, I have a quick question about the self-service ability for users to request access to a service style. Yep. It's a great feature, but we need the ability to scope which group can request access to an application. Right. Is that something on the roadmap?
Yeah, you know, the self-service access request roadmap is something that we're looking for a lot of feedback around. On one hand, we have customers telling us they want to leverage their existing ITSM system to build out infinite complexity around that workflow. We have heard that request, so scoping requests. We have heard around being able to request access to different resources, groups, and things like that. We don't have any near-term roadmap around those enhancements, but it's something we would love to continue to engage with you on and figure out what the right balance is of doing that in Okta versus outside.
Provisioning, all these things are great. Is there any change to the password self-service?
Are there any changes to password self-service? Was that the question? And specifically password reset?
Password resets, forgot password, because the policies in password self-service, like for example, still it uses a legacy, a very old challenge questions, okay? And none of the MFA factors, which is in Okta Adaptive MFA, is not part of that. Those two things are very disconnected.
Yes.
And
yeah.
that user behavior, is there any change coming up?
Yeah, so I can speak to that briefly and then I'll probably introduce you to a colleague of mine. But one of the goals of the identity engine was to address that. You know, when Okta was first built, we were very password forward and MFA was always second factor. And as a result, a lot of reset flows and enrollment flows were kind of baked into that logic. With the identity engine investment, we're much more agnostic about separating out credentials and factors from primary, secondary auth, and being able to drive enrollment, challenge, and recovery in a more flexible way depending on what factors you're using. So short answer is absolutely. That's a pain point we're addressing through the identity engine. And I should introduce you to some folks to cover that in more detail. Great. 1 minute left, so maybe one more question, and then we'll wrap up and head to the afternoon session. Anyone else? Okay, one more.
Thank you. You mentioned when we do use dynamic groups, proceed with caution, right? And we've been burned by that because groups can be used for so many different things, such as policy, push groups, things like that. Is there a roadmap where we're going to be able to see a matrix of where those groups are being used?
That's a good question. I'm not aware of any specific roadmap around that. We should talk to the Universal Directory team. I do know that visibility and reporting around groups and policies and who is in what is a pain point that the team, both UD and reporting, are looking at. Another area of pain around that is around hierarchy and group structure to help alleviate some of that as well. So I know those are a couple areas that the product team is looking at, and I'm happy to introduce you to those PMs. Cool. Thank you everyone for attending the session, and enjoy the rest of Oktane. Thanks.